The fluorescent lights of the hospital's emergency waiting room buzzed like angry wasps, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow that made even the healthiest person look half dead. I sat hunched in a plastic chair that had seen better decades, my scrubs still damp with coffee I'd spilled during the morning rush, my hair escaping its messy bun in wild tendrils that stuck to my sweaty neck. The air reeked of antiseptic, old magazines, and the particular desperation that clung to places where people waited for news they didn't want to hear. I'd been on my feet for 16 hours straight, covering a double shift because Sarah called in sick again, and my lower back screamed with every breath. My eyes burned. My hands trembled slightly, not from caffeine, but from the bone-deep exhaustion that comes when you've pushed yourself past every reasonable limit and then kept going anyway. I was invisible here, just another nurse in wrinkled scrubs, one of the nameless faces that kept this place running while doctors got the glory and administrators got the paychecks. The ambulance bay doors crashed open, and I barely looked up. Just another night in Chicago's busiest trauma center, but then I smelled it. Expensive cologne, something dark and woody with notes of bergamot, cutting through the antiseptic haze like a knife through fog. Italian leather followed, the soft creak of shoes that cost more than my monthly rent. The air itself seemed to shift, growing heavier, charged with an energy that made the hair on my arms stand up. I lifted my head. He moved through the waiting room like a shark through water, fluid, predatory, utterly out of place among the sick and wounded. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a charcoal suit so perfectly tailored it looked painted on. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, all sharp angles and strong lines. But it was his eyes that caught me, held me frozen in my uncomfortable plastic chair. Dark eyes that missed nothing, sweeping the room with the kind of awareness that spoke of danger, of violence carefully leashed. 2 men flanked him, thick-necked and silent, their hands hovering near their jackets in a way that made my nurse's instinct scream guns. They moved like soldiers, checking exits, watching corners, creating a buffer zone around their charge. The man in the center, because he was clearly the one who mattered, stopped at the intake desk. Even the way he stood commanded attention, weight balanced like a boxer's, ready for violence at any moment. The receptionist actually stammered. "I need to see Dr. Reeves," he said, and his voice was like whiskey and smoke, low and rough and utterly compelling. Now. Not a request. A statement of fact. I should have looked away. Should have minded my own business. Should have kept my head down like I always did. Like I'd learned to do growing up in the foster system. Like I'd perfected during 3 years of nursing school while working 2 jobs. Invisible. Safe. But I was so tired. So fucking tired that my brain had stopped filtering properly. "Dr. Reeves is in surgery," I heard myself say. "He'll be another 2 hours at least." Those dark eyes swung toward me, and I felt the impact like a physical thing. My breath caught. Up close, he was devastating. Not handsome in any conventional way, but compelling, magnetic, with a scar cutting through his left eyebrow and another along his jaw that spoke of a violent past. His gaze pinned me to my chair, and I saw him actually see me for the first time. Those eyes tracking from my exhausted face to my stained scrubs to my worn sneakers. Something flickered across his expression. Surprise, maybe. Interest. "Who are you?" he asked. "Nobody," I said automatically, then winced. "I mean, I'm Emma Ross. I'm a nurse here." "Emma." He said my name like he was tasting it, rolling it around in his mouth. "What happened to Dr. Reeves? Multi-car pileup on the Dan Ryan. 3 critical patients in the OR." I stood up, swaying slightly, and his hand shot out, fast, so fast, to steady my elbow. His touch burned through my thin scrub top, and I jerked back instinctively. "Sorry. Long shift." He didn't let go immediately. His fingers lingered, warm and possessive, and I saw something dangerous flash in his eyes. "Boss," one of his men murmured urgently. "We should go. Too exposed here." The man, boss, apparently, ignored him completely. "When did you last eat?" The question was so unexpected that I actually laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. "I don't." "What does that have to do with anything? Answer me." And God help me, I did. Something in his voice made it impossible not to. "Yesterday morning, I think." Before my shift started, his jaw tightened, a muscle ticking beneath the scarred skin. That's more than 24 hours. Yeah, well. I shrugged, trying for casual and probably failing. Welcome to nursing in America. We're all slowly dying on our feet, but hey, at least we have student loans to keep us company. I was babbling. Exhaustion made me stupid, made my mouth run without my brain's permission. His men looked increasingly uncomfortable, shifting weight, hands definitely on weapons now. But he just kept watching me with those predator's eyes, and I couldn't seem to look away. You need to sit down, he said. Before you fall down. I'm fine. You're swaying. The waiting room tilted sideways. My vision grayed at the edges. Shit. I'd pushed too hard, ignored too many warning signs. My knees started to buckle. Strong arms caught me before I hit the ground. He moved faster than anyone that size should be able to move, sweeping me up against a chest that felt like warm steel. That expensive cologne surrounded me, mixed with something uniquely him. Gunpowder and mint and danger. My cheek pressed against silk and muscle, and I felt his heart beating, slow and steady, completely calm despite the chaos. I've got you, he murmured, and the words vibrated through me. When was the last time someone took care of you, Emma? Never. The answer was never. But I couldn't say that. Couldn't admit how pathetically alone I was in this city of millions. So I did something incredibly stupid instead. I wrapped my arms around his neck and held on. Just hug me for a second, I whispered against his shoulder, too tired to care about propriety or consequences, or the fact that this man radiated danger like other people radiated heat. Please. I didn't know what I needed. Comfort. Warmth. Proof that I existed. That someone could see me. Really see me. Even for a moment. He went completely still. I felt it. Felt every muscle in his body lock down. Felt the sudden tension in his men. Felt the waiting room itself seem to hold its breath. His arms tightened around me fractionally, carefully, like I was something fragile that might shatter. Boss, one of the guards started. Quiet, he said, and the single word carried absolute authority. He held me. Right there in the emergency waiting room, in front of God and everyone, this dangerous stranger held me like I was precious. One large hand cupped the back of my head, fingers threading through my hair, and the other spread across my lower back, supporting my weight effortlessly. He smelled like money and violence and something darker, something that should have terrified me. It didn't. For those few seconds, I felt safe. Safer than I'd felt since I couldn't remember. Since before my parents died, maybe. Since before the foster homes and the survival and the endless, grinding loneliness of trying to make it in a world that didn't give a damn if you lived or died. What's your full name? He asked quietly, his breath warm against my temple. Emma Caroline Ross. I was so tired. So tired. Why? Just curious. His hand moved in my hair. Where are you Gentle, from, Emma Caroline Ross? Tender. Nowhere. Everywhere. I should pull away. I knew I should pull away, but his heart beat steady beneath my ear, and his arms were so warm, and I was so cold. Always so cold. Foster kid. Aged out at 18. Nursing school on scholarships and spite. No family? Not anymore. Something in his chest rumbled, not quite a growl, but close. How old are you? 23. You? Old enough to know better. There was dark amusement in his voice now, but apparently not old enough to be smart. I finally pulled back, or tried to. His arms loosened but didn't release me completely, keeping me steady on my feet. We were too close, his face inches from mine, and I could see gold flecks in those dark eyes. Could see the exact moment something shifted in his expression. Possession. That's what I saw. Raw, hungry possession. It should have scared me shitless. Instead, my traitorous body went warm all over. I started. Emma Ross. A security guard appeared at my elbow, young and nervous. Dr. Chen needs you in trauma 2. Stat. Reality crashed back. I stepped away from the stranger, and this time he let me go, though his hands lingered until the last possible second. I smoothed down my scrubs uselessly, aware I looked like hell, aware I'd just hugged a complete stranger in the middle of a hospital, aware that his men were staring at me like I was some kind of exotic creature that had wandered into their territory. "I have to go," I said unnecessarily. "I know." He reached into his jacket. His men tensed, I noticed, until they saw what he was pulling out. A business card, heavy stock, embossed. He pressed it into my palm, his fingers closing over mine. "Call me when your shift ends. I don't even know your name." His smile was sharp and dangerous, and absolutely devastating. Dante. Dante Castellano. The name meant nothing to me. Should it? His men exchanged looks that suggested it definitely should. "Okay," I said, because my brain had apparently stopped working entirely. "Dante. Emma Ross." The security guard sounded panicked now. "They need you now." I turned and ran, the business card clutched in my fist, my heart hammering against my ribs. I didn't look back. Couldn't. If I looked back, I'd see those dark eyes watching me, and I'd do something even stupider than I'd already done. I made it to Trauma 2, scrubbed in, focused on the GSW patient bleeding out on the table, but my mind kept drifting back to expensive cologne and dangerous hands and the way he'd held me like I mattered. It was only later, during my break at 3 a.m., that I Googled his name. The results made my blood run cold. Dante Castellano, head of the Castellano crime family. Suspected in 17 murders, though nothing had ever stuck. Controlled most of Chicago's South Side, with fingers in everything from construction to politics. Dangerous, ruthless, untouchable. And I'd hugged him. Asked a Mafia boss to hold me. The business card felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket. I should throw it away. Block the number. Forget this ever happened. Instead, at 6 a.m., when my shift finally, mercifully ended, I found myself in the parking garage, staring at my ancient Honda Civic with its rusted bumper and check engine light that had been on for 6 months. Dawn was breaking over the Chicago skyline, painting everything in shades of pink and gold. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Did you eat yet?" I should have been terrified, should have called the police, should have done literally anything except what I did. I texted back, "No." The response was immediate. "Where are you?" "Hospital parking garage. Level 3. Stay there." 10 minutes later, a black SUV with tinted windows pulled up beside my car. The back door opened. Dante Castellano looked at me from the leather interior, still wearing that perfect suit, still radiating danger. "Get in, Emma," he said quietly. "Let me feed you." I thought about my empty apartment, my student loans, my bone-deep loneliness. The way he'd held me like I was something worth protecting. I got in. The door closed behind me with the solid thunk of expensive engineering. And as the SUV pulled away, I realized I'd just made a choice that would change everything. I just didn't know how much, not yet. But I would. God, I would. The SUV's interior smelled like leather and wealth, a world away from my car's perpetual scent of old French fries and desperation. Dante sat across from me in the spacious back seat, one arm draped casually along the top of the leather, his dark eyes tracking every micro-expression that crossed my face. The driver was silent, separated from us by a privacy screen. One of his guards sat in the passenger seat. I could see the back of his thick neck, the way his head moved constantly, scanning, watching. "Seatbelt," Dante said, and I realized I'd forgotten to put it on. My hands shook slightly as I fumbled with the buckle. Adrenaline was catching up with exhaustion, making my fingers clumsy. He leaned forward without warning, his hands covering mine, warm and steady and sure. He clicked the seatbelt into place himself, his face inches from mine, close enough that I could see the individual lashes framing those dangerous eyes. "Thank you," I whispered. "You're trembling." He didn't move back. "Are you afraid of me, Emma?" I should have said yes. Any sane person would have said yes. But exhaustion had stripped away my filters, left me raw and honest. "I don't think so. I should be, shouldn't I?" Something dark and satisfied flickered across his expression. Probably. He finally sat back, giving me space I wasn't sure I wanted. But I'm glad you're not. The SUV moved smoothly through Chicago's early morning streets. Through the tinted windows, I watched the city wake up. Delivery trucks, early commuters, homeless people huddled in doorways. My city. The place I'd struggled to survive in for 5 years, fighting for every inch of ground. "Where are we going?" I asked. "Somewhere safe." He pulled out his phone, typed something with quick, efficient movements. "Somewhere you can eat without being interrupted." "I have to sleep sometime. I work again tonight." His jaw tightened. "Tonight? You just worked a double." "Short-staffed. I need the money." I didn't know why I was telling him this. Maybe because he'd held me. Maybe because I was too tired to maintain the walls I usually kept up. "Student loans don't pay themselves. How much?" "What? How much do you owe?" His voice was casual, but I saw the intensity in his eyes, the way he leaned forward slightly, like my answer mattered. That's personal. Emma." My name in his mouth sounded like a caress and a command all at once. "How much?" $147,000. The number felt obscene in the luxury of this vehicle. Give or take. The interest keeps growing faster than I can pay it down. I'll probably die still owing money. The muscle in his jaw ticked again. "No, you won't." Before I could ask what he meant, the SUV pulled into an underground parking garage. Not public, but private. The kind that required a key card just to enter. We descended 2 levels into a world of concrete and shadows, where expensive cars sat like sleeping predators. The driver pulled into a spot next to an elevator that looked like it required another key card, maybe a retinal scan. "Come," Dante said, and the door opened. His guard was there instantly, scanning the parking garage with those alert, dangerous eyes. I climbed out, my sneakers squeaking on the polished concrete. Dante's hand found the small of my back, warm and possessive, guiding me toward the elevator. His touch sent heat racing up my spine, and I hated how much I liked it, how right it felt. The elevator required both a key card and a fingerprint. We rode up in silence, though I felt his eyes on me constantly, that predator's gaze that missed nothing. I caught our reflection in the polished steel doors, him immaculate and powerful, me a mess in stained scrubs with dark circles under my eyes and hair falling out of its bun. We didn't belong in the same universe, let alone the same elevator. The doors opened directly into a penthouse apartment that stole what little breath I had left. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lake Michigan, the water spreading out endlessly, catching the early morning sun and throwing it back in shades of copper and gold. The space was masculine, expensive, all clean lines and dark leather and art that probably cost more than I'd make in a lifetime. "Is this yours?" I asked stupidly. "One of mine." He guided me deeper into the apartment, past furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum, toward an open kitchen that gleamed with stainless steel and marble. "I have several properties. Security reasons." "Right. Because he was a crime lord. A mafia boss. A man who probably had people killed before breakfast. I should run, should scream. Should do literally anything except stand here in his kitchen watching him shrug off his suit jacket and roll up his sleeves, revealing forearms corded with muscle and marked with scars. "Sit," he said, pointing to a bar stool at the massive marble island. I sat. My body was past the point of arguing with direct commands. He moved around the kitchen with surprising efficiency, pulling ingredients from a refrigerator that looked like it cost more than my car. Eggs, butter, bread, cheese. His hands were quick and sure, no wasted movement, and I found myself mesmerized by the casual domesticity of it. This dangerous man making me breakfast. "You cook?" I asked. My mother insisted all her children learn. A small smile touched his lips, there and gone. Said a man who couldn't feed himself was no man at all. Is she still around? No. The word was flat, final. She died when I was 17, cancer. I'm sorry. He cracked eggs into a bowl with one hand, the movement practiced and precise. Don't be. It was a long time ago. His eyes found mine. Tell me about your parents. I should have deflected. Should have kept my walls up. But something about him, the way he'd held me, the way he looked at me like I was the only person in the world, made me want to talk. Car accident. I was 8. The words came out flat, matter of fact, the way they always did. Drunk driver. They died on impact, or so they told me. I went into the system after that, foster homes. I shrugged. You know how that goes? No. He added butter to a pan, the sizzle loud in the quiet kitchen. I don't. Tell me. So I did. I told him about the first family who only wanted the check, the second who had too many kids already and no time for one more, the third where the dad had hands that wandered. I told him about learning to be invisible, to take up no space, to survive on scraps and willpower, about aging out at 18 with nothing but a garbage bag full of clothes and a determination to be something more than another statistic. He listened while he cooked, his face impassive, but his hands growing rougher with the ingredients, cracking the eggs harder than necessary, whisking with barely contained violence. The family with the father, he said quietly, dangerously. What was his name? It doesn't matter. That was 10 years ago. His name, Emma. The way he said it made my stomach clench with something that wasn't quite fear. Richard Morrison. But I only stayed there 3 months before they moved me. It's fine. I'm fine. You're not fine. He plated the eggs, perfectly fluffy omelets with cheese and herbs I couldn't identify. Set one in front of me with toast that looked homemade. You work yourself to death. You don't eat. You don't sleep. You're alone in a city that will chew you up and spit you out without a second thought. I'm surviving. Surviving isn't living. He sat across from me, his own plate untouched, watching me with those intense dark eyes. Eat. I picked up the fork. The omelet was perfect, melting on my tongue, and I realized I was actually starving. I ate like someone who'd just remembered food existed, shoveling it in without grace or manners. He watched every bite, that possessive look growing stronger. When do you work again? He asked. Tonight, 7 p.m., that gives you 12 hours. He pulled out his phone, typed something. You'll sleep here. I nearly choked on my toast. What? No, I can't. You're dead on your feet, Emma. You'll crash driving home. He said it like it was already decided. There's a bedroom down the hall, clean sheets, blackout curtains. You'll sleep, and when you wake up, we'll talk. Talk about what? Everything. He stood, moved around the island toward me, and my heart kicked into overdrive. He stopped close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. You hugged me last night, asked a stranger to hold you. Do you make a habit of that? No. My voice came out breathy. Never. I don't know why I did that. I do. His hand came up, and I thought he'd touch my face, but he stopped just short, his fingers hovering near my cheek. You recognized something in me. The same thing I recognized in you. What's that? Loneliness. The word hung between us, raw and honest, the kind that doesn't go away no matter how many people surround you, the kind that makes you invisible even in a crowded room. My throat tightened. You're not lonely. You have people, guards, family, probably. I have employees, soldiers, people who fear me or want something from me. His hand finally made contact, his thumb brushing across my cheekbone with devastating gentleness. But lonely? Yes, Emma. I'm fucking lonely. Have been for longer than I care to admit. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. His touch was doing things to me, making me want things I had no business wanting from a man like him. I should go, I whispered. No. Not a command this time. A plea. Stay. Sleep. Let me. He paused. Let me take care of you. Something vulnerable flickering across his hard face. Just for today. Every survival instinct I'd honed over 23 years screamed at me to run. This man was dangerous. This situation was insane. I didn't know him. Didn't know what he wanted from me or what price I'd pay for accepting his help. But God, I was so tired of fighting alone. Okay, I heard myself say. Just for today. His smile was small but genuine, transforming his face from dangerous to devastating. "Come on, I'll show you the bedroom." He led me down a hallway lined with more expensive art, to a bedroom that was bigger than my entire apartment. The bed was massive, dressed in what looked like Egyptian cotton in shades of charcoal and cream. The blackout curtains he'd mentioned were already drawn, making the room a peaceful cave. "Bathroom's through there." He pointed to a door. "Help yourself to anything you need. I'll be in my office if you need me." He turned to leave, and before I could stop myself, I caught his hand. He froze, looking down at where my small hand gripped his larger one. "Thank you," I said quietly. "For all of this, the food, the place to sleep, for seeing me." Something blazed in his eyes, hot and possessive and hungry. He lifted my hand to his lips, pressed a kiss to my knuckles that sent electricity shooting up my arm. "I see you, Emma Caroline Ross. Believe that." Then he was gone, closing the door quietly behind him, and I was alone in a Mafia boss's penthouse bedroom, wondering what the hell I'd gotten myself into. I used the bathroom, marble and gold fixtures, and a shower that probably had better water pressure than my entire apartment building. Found a t-shirt in the closet that smelled like him, like danger and expensive cologne. Put it on because my scrubs were disgusting and I was too tired to care about boundaries. I fell into that massive bed and was asleep before my head fully hit the pillow. I dreamed of dark eyes and dangerous hands and the feeling of being held like I mattered. When I woke, everything would be different. I just didn't know how much. Not yet. I woke to shadows and silk, disoriented and aching. For a moment I didn't know where I was. The bed was too soft, the sheets too expensive, the darkness too complete. Then memory crashed back, the hospital, the hug, Dante Castellano and his dangerous eyes. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand. 4:47 p.m. I'd slept for almost 9 hours straight, the kind of deep, dreamless sleep I hadn't experienced in months. My body felt heavy, reluctant to move, but my shift started in 2 hours, and I needed to get home, shower, change into clean scrubs. The bedroom door was closed, but I could hear sounds from elsewhere in the penthouse. Low voices, the clink of glass, footsteps. I slid out of bed, suddenly hyper-aware that I was wearing nothing but his t-shirt and my underwear, the fabric hanging to mid-thigh. My scrubs were folded neatly on a chair. I didn't remember putting them on. Someone had been in here while I slept. That should have terrified me. Instead, something warm and dangerous uncurled in my stomach. I dressed quickly in my wrinkled scrubs, pulled my hair into a fresh bun, and opened the door. The penthouse's main room had transformed. Where it had been empty this morning, now it held men. 4 of them, all with that same dangerous alertness as Dante's guards. They looked up as I emerged, hands moving instinctively toward weapons before they recognized me. One actually stood, his face carefully blank. "Miss Ross," he said. "Boss is on the terrace." I followed his pointed finger to a glass door I hadn't noticed earlier, leading to an outdoor space. Through it, I could see Dante's silhouette against the darkening sky, phone pressed to his ear, his free hand gripping the railing with white-knuckled intensity. I shouldn't interrupt. Should just leave, sneak out while he was distracted, but I'd never been good at doing what I should. I stepped onto the terrace. The Chicago skyline spread out before me, lights beginning to sparkle as dusk settled over the city. The air was cool, carrying the scent of the lake and the distant sounds of traffic. Dante stood at the railing, still in his dress pants and white shirt from this morning, though he'd lost the tie and his sleeves were rolled up. "I don't give a fuck what Marco thinks," he said into the phone, his voice ice cold. "He takes the deal, or I take his territory. Those are his options." A pause, then make him understand. "I want an answer by midnight, or things get messy." He ended the call, slipped the phone into his pocket, and turned. Those dark eyes found me immediately, and I watched his entire demeanor shift, the cold violence bleeding away, replaced by something warmer, hungrier. "You're awake," he said. "I need to get home. My shift starts soon." He moved toward me, predatory and purposeful, and I fought the urge to step back. He stopped close, too close, invading my space in a way that should have felt threatening. but instead felt like coming home. "You slept well?" he asked. "Yes, thank you. For everything. But I really should—" "You're not driving." He said it like a fact, absolute and unchangeable. "Marco will take you home, then to the hospital. He'll wait in the parking garage and drive you back here when your shift ends." "Back here?" "Dante, I can't just— You can't afford your apartment." He said it bluntly, without cruelty, just stating a fact he clearly already knew. "I had someone look into it while you slept. You're 3 months behind on rent. Your landlord filed eviction papers yesterday." The blood drained from my face. "You had someone— You investigated me?" "I protect what's mine." He said it simply, like it explained everything. "And you became mine the moment you put your arms around me and asked me to hold you." "I'm not yours." My voice shook. "I don't even know you." "You know enough." His hand came up, cupping my face with a gentleness that contradicted everything I knew about him. "You know I see you. You know I want to take care of you. You know that something happened between us in that hospital, something neither of us was looking for but both of us need. This is insane. Probably." His thumb traced my lower lip, and my breath caught. "But you're not running." "Why is that, Emma?" "Because I was tired of being alone." Because he looked at me like I mattered. Because for the first time in my adult life, someone wanted to take care of me instead of taking from me. I couldn't say any of that. "I have to go to work." "I know." He dropped his hand, stepped back, and I immediately mourned the loss of his touch. "Marco will drive you. But Emma?" His voice dropped, dangerous and possessive. "You're coming back here tonight, not to your apartment. Here. That's not negotiable. You can't just— I can. I am." He pulled out his phone, showed me a screen I didn't understand at first. "Bank transfers. Numbers with too many zeros. Your student loans are paid. Your rent is current through the end of your lease. Your car is being serviced and will be returned tomorrow, fully repaired." I stared at the screen, my brain refusing to process what I was seeing. That's over $150,000. Pocket change. I can't accept this. I can't— My voice cracked. "Why? Why would you do this?" "Because you're mine now." He said it with such conviction, such absolute certainty. "Because I'm going to take care of you, Emma. Whether you think you want it or not, whether it makes sense or not, you fell into my arms asking for comfort. And I'm going to give you everything you've ever needed and more things than you knew to ask for." I don't understand. Tears pricked my eyes, hot and unwelcome. People don't just— This doesn't happen in real life. It does now. He pulled me against his chest, and I went, helpless against the magnetic pull of him. His arms wrapped around me, strong and sure, and I felt that same sense of safety I'd felt in the hospital. "You're not alone anymore. Get used to it." I should have fought, should have argued, should have maintained some dignity. Instead, I buried my face in his chest and let him hold me while I cried. For the relief of not being crushed under debt. For the terror of owing this dangerous man something I couldn't name. For the sheer overwhelming reality that my life had just changed in ways I couldn't begin to understand. "I've got you," he murmured into my hair. "I've got you, baby. You're safe now." The endearment should have felt wrong. We'd known each other less than 24 hours. But it didn't. It felt right, inevitable, like we'd been moving toward this moment since before we met. Eventually, I pulled back, wiping at my face with shaking hands. "I have to work." "I know." He smoothed my hair back from my face with gentle hands. "Go. Marco will take care of you. But Emma?" His expression turned serious, deadly. "If anyone at that hospital gives you trouble, if anyone makes you feel unsafe or disrespected, you tell me immediately. Understood? Dante?" "Understood?" The command in his voice made me shiver. "Yes, good girl." The praise made heat pool low in my belly. "Now go, before I decide to keep you here instead." Marco drove a different SUV, equally black, equally bulletproof looking. He was polite but silent, his eyes constantly scanning the streets as we headed toward my apartment building. I'd given him the address reluctantly, embarrassed by the neighborhood, the peeling paint on the building's facade, the broken security door. He didn't comment, Just pulled up to the curb. I'll wait here, Miss Ross. Take your time. My apartment looked even more depressing than usual after spending the day in Dante's penthouse. The studio was barely 400 square feet. The furniture was secondhand, and the radiator clanked like it was possessed. But it was mine. Bought with my own money. Survived in through my own grit. Except it wasn't mine anymore, was it? Dante had paid my rent, paid my loans, made me dependent on him with the stroke of a pen. I should have been angry, should have felt trapped. Instead, I felt lighter than I had in years. I showered quickly, changed into clean scrubs, grabbed my bag. As I locked the door behind me, I wondered if I'd ever sleep here again. Marco was exactly where he'd said he'd be. He drove me to the hospital in silence, pulling up to the employee entrance at exactly 6:55 p.m. "I'll be in the parking garage level 3. When you're ready, Miss Ross," he said. "You're just going to wait for 12 hours? Boss's orders." He said it like that explained everything. Maybe it did. I walked into the hospital in a daze, my mind spinning. Sarah was at the nurse's station, looking harried as usual, her blonde hair escaping its ponytail. "Emma, thank God, we're slammed tonight." Then she really looked at me. "Holy shit, you actually slept. You look almost human." "Gee, thanks. I'm serious. What happened? You meet a guy or something?" She said it jokingly, but I felt my face heat. "Or something," I muttered. "Oh my God, you did. Tell me everything. Is he hot? Where'd you meet him?" "Sarah, we're about to start shift." "Emma Ross?" A different voice, male, annoyed. "Dr. Morrison, no relation to the Foster family, thank God," stood behind me with a chart. "I need you in Trauma 1, now, GSW to the abdomen, bleeding out." Work swallowed me whole after that. The shift was brutal. 3 more GSWs, 2 overdoses, 1 cardiac arrest we lost despite everything we tried. By 3 a.m., I was running on fumes again. But this time there was a difference. Every time I flagged, I thought about the penthouse waiting for me. About Dante's arms. About not being alone. It kept me going. At 4 a.m., during a rare lull, I checked my phone. 7 missed calls from an unknown number. 3 texts. "Did you eat dinner? Emma. Answer me. Marco says you haven't taken a break in 6 hours. Go eat something. Now." Even through text, I could feel the command in his words. I should have been annoyed. Instead, I smiled. I texted back. "Busy night. I'm fine." The response was immediate. "That's not eating. There's a bag for you at the nurse's station." Marco brought it. I walked to the desk. Sure enough, there was a bag with my name on it. Expensive, insulated, from a restaurant I'd never heard of. Inside was still warm pasta, fresh bread, a salad, and chocolate cake that looked like it cost more than my hourly wage. Sarah whistled low. "Okay, he's definitely a keeper. Nobody sends food like that unless they're serious." I ate in the break room, every bite reminding me that someone was thinking about me, caring about me, making sure I was fed even when I forgot to take care of myself. It was terrifying and wonderful in equal measure. The rest of the shift passed in a blur. By 7 a.m., I was dead on my feet again, but Marco was waiting exactly where he said he'd be. He opened the door for me without a word, and I collapsed into the leather seat. "The penthouse, Miss Ross?" he asked. I should have said no, should have insisted on my apartment, should have maintained some independence. "Yes," I heard myself say. "The penthouse." His slight smile suggested he'd expected nothing else. When we arrived, the sun was rising again, painting the lake in shades of rose and gold. Marco escorted me up in the elevator. Using his own keycard, I noticed. How many people had access to Dante's private spaces? The elevator doors opened directly into the penthouse. Dante was waiting. He stood by those massive windows, silhouetted against the rising sun, wearing different clothes than yesterday. Dark jeans and a black Henley that clung to his powerful frame. He'd been awake all night, I could tell. There was a tension in his shoulders, an edge to the way he held himself that spoke of violence barely leashed. When he turned and saw me, Everything about him changed. The tension bled away. His expression softened. He crossed the space between us in 3 long strides and pulled me into his arms without preamble, without asking permission. I went willingly, my body already learning his shape, already craving his warmth. "You're okay," he murmured into my hair. It wasn't a question. "I'm fine. Just tired." "You ate what I sent?" "Yes." I pulled back to look at him. "Thank you." "You didn't have to do that. I take care of what's mine." He said it matter-of-factly, like it was the most natural thing in the world. His hand came up to cup my face, his thumb tracing the dark circles under my eyes. "You're exhausted. Come on." He led me to the bedroom, the same one I'd slept in yesterday. But now it felt different, more intentional, like this was becoming our space rather than just a guest room. He sat me on the edge of the bed and knelt in front of me, unlacing my sneakers with gentle, efficient movements. "Dante, I can... let me..." His eyes flicked up to mine, dark and intense. "Let me take care of you." So I did. I let him remove my shoes, let him help me out of my scrubs, his movements clinical, respectful, even though I saw the heat in his eyes. He handed me one of his shirts again, turned his back while I changed, and when I was ready, he pulled back the covers and guided me into bed. "Sleep," he commanded softly. "I'll be here when you wake up. You don't have to. Emma." My name was a warning and a promise. "I'm not going anywhere. Sleep." I wanted to argue, wanted to maintain some independence, some control over this situation that was spiraling into something I didn't understand. But exhaustion won. My eyes were already closing as my head hit the pillow. The last thing I felt was his lips pressing against my forehead, gentle and possessive. "Mine," he whispered. "Fucking mine." I slept. When I woke this time, it was late afternoon again, the room still dark behind the blackout curtains. But I wasn't alone. Dante sat in an armchair he'd pulled close to the bed, his laptop open on his knee, his face illuminated by the screen's glow. He was working, but his free hand rested on the bed near my pillow, close enough to touch, like he couldn't bear to be completely separate from me even while I slept. "Hey," I said, my voice rough with sleep. His head snapped up immediately, the laptop forgotten. "Hey yourself, how do you feel?" "Better." I sat up, and his shirt, because that's what it was now, his shirt that I wore to sleep, slipped off one shoulder. His eyes tracked the movement, darkening with hunger he didn't try to hide. "What time is it?" 4:30. "You slept about 9 hours again." He closed the laptop, set it aside, and moved to sit on the edge of the bed. Close. Too close. Not close enough. "Your shift doesn't start until 7 tonight. You have time." "Time for what?" "To talk." His hand found mine, threading our fingers together. The gesture was intimate, possessive, and sent warmth racing up my arm. About what happens now, my stomach clenched. "Dante, you can't keep working these doubles, Emma. You're destroying yourself. I need the money." "No, you don't. Not anymore." He said it gently, but firmly. "Your loans are paid. Your rent is paid. You don't have any financial pressure anymore. So what? I just quit? Become dependent on you?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "I'm not some kept woman, Dante. I worked too hard to get where I am. I'm not asking you to quit." His thumb traced circles on the back of my hand. "I'm asking you to stop killing yourself. Work normal shifts. Take care of yourself. Let me help you." "Why?" The question burst out of me, raw and desperate. "Why do you care? You don't even know me." "This is insane. We met 2 days ago, and you're talking like we're what?" He leaned closer, his eyes intense. "Like you're mine? Like I'd burn down the entire city before I let anything hurt you? Like I've been waiting my whole life for someone to look at me the way you did in that hospital?" "That's insane," I whispered. "Probably." His other hand came up to cup my face. "But that doesn't make it less true. I'm 34 years old, Emma. I've spent the last 16 years building an empire, taking what I want, destroying anyone who gets in my way. And in all that time, no one has ever looked at me like I was just a man. Someone worth holding. Someone safe. You're not safe. My voice shook. You're dangerous. You're a criminal. You probably kill people. I do. He didn't flinch from the truth. I've killed 17 men personally, ordered the deaths of dozens more. I deal in violence and fear and control. I'm not a good man, Emma. I won't pretend to be. I should have run. Should have been horrified. Should have called the police. Instead, I asked, why did you kill them? Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe. Respect. Because they threatened my family, my territory, my people. In my world, you protect what's yours or you lose everything. And now I'm yours? I couldn't keep the tremor from my voice. Yes. Simple. Absolute. From the moment you asked me to hold you, you became mine, and I protect what's mine, Emma. Always. I don't understand this. Tears pricked my eyes again. I don't understand how this happened, or what you want from me, or why I'm not terrified right now. You're not terrified because you feel it too. He leaned forward until our foreheads touched, his breath warm against my lips. This thing between us, this recognition. You're just as lonely as I am. Just as tired of fighting alone. Just as desperate for someone to see you. He was right. God help me, he was right. What if I hurt you? I whispered. What if I'm not enough? What if you wake up one day and realize I'm just some broke nurse with nothing to offer? His laugh was low and dark. Emma, baby, you have no idea what you are, do you? His hands framed my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. You're everything. You're light in a world that's been dark for so fucking long. You're softness where there's only been violence. You're mine, and I'm never letting you go. Dante. He kissed me. It wasn't gentle, wasn't tentative. It was claiming, possessive, hungry, his mouth moving against mine with devastating certainty. His tongue traced the seam of my lips, and I opened for him, helpless against the onslaught. He tasted like coffee, and danger, and something uniquely him that made my head spin. I should have pushed him away, should have maintained some boundaries. Instead, I kissed him back, my hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. He groaned against my mouth, a sound that was pure male satisfaction, and shifted us so I was beneath him on the bed, his weight pinning me down in the most delicious way. Mine, he growled against my lips. Say it. Say you're mine. I don't. His teeth found my lower lip, biting gently, and I gasped. God, Dante. Say it, Emma. Yours. The word fell from my lips, inevitable as gravity. I'm yours. The sound he made was almost animalistic. His hand slid under his shirt that I wore, finding bare skin, and I arched into his touch, desperate for more. More contact, more heat, more of everything. His phone rang. He ignored it, his mouth moving to my neck, teeth scraping against sensitive skin in a way that made me whimper. It rang again. Dante, I gasped. Your phone, don't care. His hand cupped my breast through the thin fabric of my bra, thumb finding my nipple, and I nearly came apart right then. The phone rang a third time. With a vicious curse, he pulled away, grabbing the device from the nightstand. This better be fucking important, he snarled into it. I lay there beneath him, breathing hard, my body on fire, watching his expression change from frustrated to furious. When? A pause. How many? Another pause, longer this time. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Have everyone ready? He ended the call and looked down at me with such regret, such fury, that my stomach clenched. What's wrong? I asked. Nothing you need to worry about. He climbed off me, and I immediately felt the loss. Business. Something that needs my attention. Dangerous business? My voice was small. He paused, looking at me with those dark, intense eyes. Potentially. But I've been handling dangerous business for 16 years. I'm not going anywhere, Emma. I promise you that. He helped me sit up, pressed a kiss to my forehead that felt like a brand. Stay here. Marco will be outside if you need anything. I'll be back as soon as I can. How long? A few hours. Maybe more. His jaw tightened. There's food in the kitchen. Anything you want is yours, but Emma—" His voice dropped, commanding, "You don't leave this penthouse. Not until I get back. Understood? Am I a prisoner? You're protected." He cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. "Someone's been asking questions about you. Someone connected to my world. Until I know who and why, you stay here where you're safe." Fear spiked through me. "What kind of questions? Nothing for you to worry about. I'm handling it." He kissed me again, hard and possessive. "Stay here. Be safe. I'll be back before your shift starts." Then he was gone, the door closing behind him with a quiet click that sounded like a cell door locking. I sat on the bed in his shirt, my lips still swollen from his kisses, my body still aching for his touch, and wondered what the hell I'd gotten myself into. Hours passed. I explored the penthouse, carefully, guiltily, like I was trespassing even though he'd told me everything was mine. The kitchen was fully stocked with food I didn't know how to prepare. The living room had a view that never stopped being breathtaking. There was a study with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, and I found myself drawn to it. The books surprised me. Not business texts or crime novels, but literature, poetry, philosophy. A worn copy of The Count of Monte Cristo, with notes in the margins in handwriting I recognized as Dante's. I was curled up on the leather sofa in his study, reading his annotated copy of Dumas, when I heard voices from the main room. "Sure she's the right play, boss?" A male voice, unfamiliar. "She's a nobody. No connections, no family. Using her as bait is—" "She's not bait." Dante's voice, cold as winter. "She's off limits. Make sure everyone understands that. But if Vitale thinks— I don't give a fuck what Vitale thinks. Emma is mine. Anyone who touches her, anyone who even looks at her wrong, I'll gut them personally. Are we clear?" "Crystal, boss." I sat frozen on the couch, the book forgotten in my lap. Bait? Vitale? What the hell was happening? The door to the study opened. Dante stood there, still in his jeans and Henley, but now there was blood on his hands, not a lot. Just smears across his knuckles, like he'd hit someone. Hard. His eyes found me, tracked to the book in my lap, and something softened in his expression. "You're reading my books," he said. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. I like it." He crossed to me, sat on the edge of the couch, close enough to touch. "What do you think?" "I think Edmond Dantes was consumed by revenge." I looked at the blood on his hands. "I think it destroyed him even as he destroyed his enemies. Maybe." Dante followed my gaze to his knuckles. "Or maybe revenge was all he had left. Maybe it was the only thing keeping him alive." "Is that what you are?" I asked quietly. "Consumed by revenge?" "I was." He reached for my hand, and I let him take it despite the blood, despite everything. "Before you. Now. Now I have something else to live for, Dante." That man said. "You heard that." It wasn't a question. "Who's Vitale? Why would he—" "Vitale is a problem I'm handling." His grip on my hand tightened. "He's been moving against my territory, trying to gain ground. Somehow he found out about you." My blood ran cold. "How?" "I don't know yet, but I will." The promise in his voice was terrifying. "And when I do, I'll make sure it never happens again. Maybe I should leave. Go back to my apartment, if being with me is putting you in danger." "No." The word was absolute. "You're not leaving. You're staying right here where I can protect you. I'm not some damsel who needs—" "Yes, you are." He pulled me into his lap, and I went, because fighting felt pointless. His arms wrapped around me, strong and sure. "You're mine to protect, Emma. Get used to it. This is crazy. I know." He pressed his face into my neck, breathing me in. "But it's too late now. You're in this. You're in me. And I'm not letting go. I should have fought. Should have maintained some independence. Instead, I wrapped my arms around his neck and held him back. Just as tight. Just as desperate. We stayed like that until it was time for my shift, wrapped around each other in his study, the Chicago skyline glittering outside the windows, the world closing in around us whether we wanted it to or not. Marco drove me to the hospital again. But this time there was a second SUV following us. More guards, more protection. The weight of Dante's world was closing around me like a fist, and I didn't know whether to feel safe or trapped. Maybe both. The shift was quieter than the previous 2 nights, a blessing I wasn't sure I deserved. Between patients, I found my mind wandering to Dante, to the blood on his hands, to the way he'd held me in his study like I was the only thing keeping him human, to the danger I'd apparently brought into his life just by existing. At 2 a.m., Sarah cornered me in the break room. "Okay, spill. Who is he?" "What?" "The guy. The one who's had you glowing for the past 3 days despite working yourself to death." She grinned. "Come on, Emma. I've known you for 2 years. You've never looked like this." "Like what?" "Like someone's actually taking care of you for once." Her expression softened. "It's good to see. You deserve it." Did I? I wasn't sure anymore. My phone buzzed. A text from Dante. "How's your night?" I smiled despite myself, typing back. Quiet. "Boring, actually." "Good. Boring is safe. I like safe when it comes to you. How's your night?" A longer pause this time. Then, "Handled. Don't worry about it." Which meant violent. Which meant someone had probably gotten hurt because of me, because of whatever threat this Vitale represented. "Earth to Emma?" Sarah waved a hand in front of my face. "You're doing it again. That dopey smile thing. Shut up," I muttered. But I was still smiling. The rest of the shift crawled by. By 7 a.m., I was ready to collapse again, my body running on fumes despite the better sleep I'd been getting. But Marco was waiting, patient and professional, and when we arrived at the penthouse, Dante was there. He looked like he hadn't slept at all. His jaw was shadowed with stubble, his eyes rimmed with red, and there were new bruises on his knuckles. But when he saw me, his entire face transformed. "Come here," he said, and I went, helpless against the gravity of him. He pulled me into his arms and just held me, breathing me in like I was oxygen and he'd been drowning. I felt the tension in his body, the barely leashed violence, and I pressed closer instead of pulling away. "Bad night?" I whispered against his chest. "Better now." His lips found my hair. "Much better now." He carried me to the bedroom, actually carried me, lifting me like I weighed nothing, and this time when he helped me out of my scrubs, there was nothing clinical about it. His hands lingered. His eyes tracked every inch of exposed skin. The hunger in his gaze made my breath catch. "Dante, I know. You need to sleep." He pulled one of his shirts over my head, his knuckles brushing against my skin and sending sparks racing through me. "But after you sleep, we need to talk." "About what?" "About the fact that you're not going back to that hospital." I stiffened. "What?" "It's not safe anymore. Vitale knows where you work. He could get to you there and I can't." His voice cracked slightly. "I can't protect you there, Emma. Not the way I need to." "So what? I just quit? Give up everything I've worked for?" "No." He guided me to the bed, pulled the covers over me. "You take a leave of absence, a few weeks, maybe a month. Just until the situation with Vitale is resolved. And then what? Then you go back, or you don't. Or you find something else. Whatever you want." He sat on the edge of the bed, his hand finding mine. "But right now, today, I need you safe. Please, Emma. Don't fight me on this. I should have fought. Should have insisted on my independence, my career, my life. But I saw the fear in his eyes. Real fear. Raw and honest. And I couldn't do it." "Okay," I whispered. "A few weeks. Just until it's safe." The relief that crossed his face was devastating. He leaned down and kissed me, soft and sweet and grateful. "Thank you. I'll be right here. Now sleep." And he was. When I drifted off, he was sitting beside me. When I woke hours later, he was still there. His laptop open, but his eyes on me, always on me, like I was the most important thing in his world. The days blurred together after that. I called the hospital and took a medical leave. Not hard to arrange given how many hours I'd been working. Dante's world swallowed me whole. I learned the rhythms of his life, the dangerous dance of power and violence that governed his days. Men came and went from the penthouse. Meetings happened behind closed doors. Phone calls were made in Italian, rapid fire and harsh, and through it all, Dante kept me close, protected, cherished. He taught me to cook. Real Italian food, the recipes his mother had taught him. We spent evenings in the kitchen, his hands guiding mine, his body pressed against my back, his voice low in my ear as he explained the proper way to make fresh pasta. He took me shopping, insisted on buying me clothes that actually fit, that made me feel beautiful instead of invisible. He hated when I protested the expense, would kiss me silent, and tell me that taking care of me was his privilege, not my burden. He made love to me for the first time a week after I moved in, slow and careful and devastating, his hands worshipping every inch of my skin, his voice whispering promises in Italian that I didn't understand but felt in my bones. And after, when I lay wrapped in his arms, safe and sated and utterly claimed, he told me he loved me. It should have been too soon, should have felt like obsession or possession or something unhealthy. Instead, it felt like coming home. "I love you too," I whispered back, and felt him smile against my hair. But danger still lurked at the edges of our bubble. Vitale was still out there, still a threat, and I could see the tension in Dante's shoulders whenever his phone rang. The way his men looked at me with a mixture of respect and concern. I was the boss's weakness, his vulnerability, his one soft spot in a world that punished softness. It came to a head 2 weeks after I'd stopped working. I woke to find Dante's side of the bed empty, voices raised in the living room. I pulled on one of his shirts and padded out barefoot, following the sound of argument. "Can't keep her locked up here forever, boss. Vitale's just going to keep pushing until..." "Until what?" Dante's voice was ice. "Until I give her up? Hand her over? That's never happening, Marcus. Never. I'm not saying give her up. I'm saying use her. Draw Vitale out. We know he wants her, wants to use her against you. Let him think he can get to her, and when he makes his move, no." The word was absolute. "Emma is off limits. Find another way." I stepped into the room. 4 men sat around Dante's dining table, all turning to look at me with various expressions of surprise and respect. Dante stood at the head of the table, and the fury on his face when he saw me made me stop in my tracks. "Emma, go back to bed." "No." I crossed my arms. If this is about me, I deserve to know what's happening. "Emma, tell me." I kept my voice steady despite the fear thrumming through me. "Please, tell me the truth." He stared at me for a long moment, jaw tight, then dismissed his men with a sharp gesture. They filed out silently, leaving us alone. "Vitale found out about the foster father," Dante said finally. "Richard Morrison, the one who touched you." My blood ran cold. "How?" "He has people everywhere. And he found out that Dante's jaw clenched. "I had Morrison taken care of. 3 days after you told me about him." "Taken care of?" My voice came out thin. "You mean..." "I mean he'll never touch another child again." No remorse in his voice, no regret. He deserved worse than what I gave him. I should have been horrified, should have run screaming. Instead, I felt something warm and dark unfurl in my chest. Relief, satisfaction, justice. "Vitale is using this," Dante continued. "He's telling the other families that I'm going soft, that I'm making decisions based on emotion instead of business, that I'm compromised, weak. Because of me. Yes." He crossed to me, pulled me into his arms. "But I don't give a fuck what Vitale thinks. You're mine, Emma. Mine to protect, mine to avenge, mine to love. And if that makes me weak, then I'll be weak. But I won't give you up. What if..." I pulled back to look at him. "What if I could help? What if we could use me to..." "No." His hands tightened on my arms. "Absolutely not. You're not bait. You're not a pawn. You're mine, and I protect what's mine. But if it would end this, Emma..." He cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. "Listen to me very carefully. I would burn this entire city to the ground before I let anyone use you. I would walk away from everything I've built, everything I am, before I put you in danger. Do you understand?" Tears pricked my eyes. "I don't want you to lose everything because of me." You're not listening. His thumb traced my cheekbone. You are everything. The business, the power, the respect. None of it means shit if I don't have you. You're what I was missing my whole life, Emma. You're what makes all of this worth it. So what do we do? A slow, dangerous smile crossed his face. We end this. Tonight. I'm done playing defense. It happened fast after that. Dante made calls, issued orders, and his apartment transformed into a war room. Men arrived, more than I'd ever seen before, all armed, all deadly serious. They treated me with careful respect, calling me Miss Ross or ma'am, their eyes always sliding away from direct contact. I was the boss's woman, untouchable, sacred. Dante wanted me to stay in the bedroom, locked away and safe. I refused. If this was happening because of me, I needed to see it through. We compromised. I stayed in his study, surrounded by guards, while he and his men prepared for whatever was coming. At midnight, his phone rang. Castellano, he answered, his voice cold. A pause. Where? Another pause. I'll be there in 30 minutes, alone. He ended the call and looked at me with regret and determination. Vitale wants to meet, just the two of us. He crossed to me, pulled me into his arms. I have to go, baby. Have to end this. Then I'm coming with you. No. Yes. I gripped his shirt. You said I'm yours. That means you're mine too, and I'm not letting you walk into danger alone. Emma, this is different. This is your world. I know. I stood on my toes and kissed him, but I'm part of your world now, for better or worse. So either we do this together, or we don't do it at all. The conflict on his face was painful to watch. Finally, he nodded, together. But you stay in the car. You stay safe. That's not negotiable. Okay. We drove to a warehouse on the south side, the kind of place where bad things happened and bodies disappeared. Marco drove, with 2 more SUVs full of guards following behind. Dante held my hand the entire way, his grip almost painful. If anything happens, he said quietly, if this goes wrong, Marcus will get you out. You run, and you don't look back. Promise me. Dante. Promise me, Emma. I promise. We pulled up to the warehouse. It was surrounded by Vitale's men, at least a dozen that I could see, probably more inside. Dante's men fanned out, creating a perimeter, hands on weapons. Stay here, Dante ordered, then kissed me hard and desperate. I love you. I love you too. I gripped his hand. Come back to me. Always. He stepped out of the SUV and walked into the warehouse alone. The longest 15 minutes of my life crawled by. I sat in the car, surrounded by guards, watching the warehouse and praying to a god I wasn't sure I believed in. Then gunfire erupted. The world exploded into chaos. Dante's men rushed the warehouse. More of Vitale's guards appeared from the shadows. The air filled with the sound of bullets and shouting and screaming. Marcus yanked open my door. We have to go, Miss Ross. Now. No. Dante's still in there. Boss's orders. I have to get you. An explosion rocked the warehouse, flames erupting from the windows. My heart stopped. Dante! I screamed, fighting against Marcus's grip. And then, through the smoke and fire, I saw him. Dante emerged from the warehouse, his shirt torn and bloody, dragging an unconscious Vitale by the collar. His men surrounded him immediately, providing cover, and he kept walking toward the SUV with single-minded determination. He threw Vitale to the ground at his men's feet. Take care of him, he ordered. Then his eyes found mine. Relief crashed through me so hard I nearly collapsed. He crossed to the SUV in 3 strides and pulled me out, into his arms, holding me so tight I could barely breathe. You're okay, I sobbed against his chest. God, Dante, you're okay. I told you I'd come back. His voice was rough, shaken. I'll always come back to you, Emma. Always. Behind him, his men were securing Vitale, hauling him away. The warehouse burned. Sirens wailed in the distance, and I held the man I loved, the dangerous, violent, beautiful man who'd given me everything, and I didn't care about any of it. Take me home, I whispered. Yeah, baby. He kissed my hair, my face, my lips. Let's go home. 3 months later, I woke to sunlight streaming through windows, the smell of coffee, and the sound of Dante singing softly in Italian in the kitchen. I stretched in our bed because I'd officially moved in 6 weeks ago, had given up my apartment and made this penthouse my home, our home. I found him at the stove, making breakfast in nothing but sleep pants, his muscled back on full display. He turned when he heard me, that devastating smile crossing his face. "Morning, beautiful. Morning." I wrapped my arms around him from behind, pressing my face against his warm skin. "What are you making?" "Your favorite. French toast with strawberries." He turned in my arms, kissed me slow and deep. "I have a surprise for you." "Another one?" "Dante, you just bought me a car." "Not that kind of surprise." He led me to the dining table where an envelope sat. "Open it." Inside was a letter from Rush University Medical Center, one of Chicago's best hospitals. An offer letter. Director of Emergency Nursing. 6-figure salary. Full benefits. I stared at it, my eyes filling with tears. "You've been restless," Dante said softly. "I know you miss nursing, miss helping people. This way you can go back, but in a position where you have control, where you're protected, where you can make a real difference. How did you—" "I know people." His smile was small. "I may have made some calls, convinced them you were perfect for the position. Which you are." I threw my arms around his neck and kissed him until we were both breathless. "Thank you," I whispered, "for seeing me, for knowing what I need, for everything. You gave me everything first." His hand slid down to rest on my hips. "You gave me a reason to be more than just the violence, more than just the business. You made me want to be better. You are better. You always were." I cupped his face, this dangerous, beautiful man who'd saved me as much as I'd saved him. "I love you. I love you too." He kissed me again, soft and sweet. More than anything in this world. Outside, Chicago sprawled in the morning light. Somewhere, Dante's men were handling business, maintaining the empire he'd built. Somewhere the world was still dangerous and violent and hard. But here, in our penthouse, in our home, wrapped in each other's arms, we were safe. We were loved. We were home. And that was worth everything.